Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. Today I am here on this beautiful Friday where my spring has kind of sprung in my area. I'm seeing hosta shoots and peony shoots, and all of my seeds inside have kind of sprouted. So it's a super exciting time, and I wanted to talk to you before the garden season really got going about different types of soil. I wanted to just kind of touch on it because I see a lot of people asking questions all the time. When you walk into a garden center or a big box store even, and you see all of the different options of bagged soil, it can be very overwhelming at the beginning. And if you're just starting out and you want kind of some guidance on what to choose for how you're gardening, I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the things. I'm not going to go into things like pH of your soil and testing your soil and that kind of stuff. That's a lot more advanced than you really have to be. I have never once tested my soil ever, and I grow things just fine. I'm just here to kind of talk about the differences between these bagged products that you can get and kind of guiding you on making the proper choice, like I said, for the way that you're gardening. So in bed versus in container, that type of thing. So the first and I guess kind of most important thing to note is that dirt and soil really aren't the same. So I'm talking dirt like you would just put your shovel into the ground and pull up dirt. Soil is more complex than that. It's got your microorganisms, it's got all the different beneficial things they put into it to really make your plants thrive and grow inside of it. So I just kind of want to get that out of the way first because you see a lot of people dirt, dirt, dirt. Well, it's not really the same. Soil is soil. It's rich. It's usually dark organic matter made, put together to, like I said, grow those things. So the first thing when you are looking at these different bags of stuff is you might see seed starting mix. And it's usually called mix because there's usually actually not soil inside of there. They've taken the soil out. A lot of different soils have different organisms and stuff that could potentially hurt very delicate seedlings. So a lot of the times it's just like a mix of like perlite and vermiculite and peat moss. It's a very light, fluffy, and airy organic matter that you can grow and start your seeds in. So I'm not saying you can't start your seeds in other things. I personally use ProMix, which is like a potting mix, and I start my seeds in there, and I have great success. So I'm just stating that those starting mixes, those seed starting mixes, they're usually presented in a way that you're starting your seeds in those because the soil has been removed, and that's why people think it's a great idea to start your seeds in there. So that's touching on your seed starting mix. Now, if you are container gardening, you're going to want to look for a potting mix or a potting soil or a container soil. Somewhere on the bag, it's going to state whether you can whether it's potting like for containers or not. And these are great and usually specifically designed for container gardening because it has things added in there to make it very light and fluffy and airy so that you have good drainage in those pots. A lot of times perlite's in there. And if you're wondering what that is, if you've ever seen, you get your potting mix and it has those little white, they look like little pebbles. They're not actually pebbles, it's called perlite. And it basically makes your soil airy so that, like I said, the water can drain properly. It also helps with, because when you're growing in a pot, the roots don't really have the ability to go very far the same way that it would in a big raised bed. So it's allowing for those roots, because it's really light and full of organic matter, it's letting those roots kind of spread out and go wild and absorb the moisture from the soil that it needs to grow. So potting mix, container mix, that's what you're looking for when you're growing in pots or containers. If you were to throw something heavy like a garden soil in there, it can be done. It's just going to make the like once you put water into it, it's going to make your soil kind of compact, and it just won't allow for such a good thrive of those roots in your plant if in there. And that brings us to our in bed raised garden. So with that, you're looking for a garden soil. So typically you're not looking for a potting mix or a seed starter mix. You're looking for like a garden soil. So the best place in my opinion to get something like this, if you have just built a raised bed, it is going to take you so many bags, depending on the size of your bed, of course, to fill a raised bed. You're going to have to go bag after bag after bag. And you don't want to use a topsoil because topsoil is usually very heavy and it usually doesn't have nutrients or anything in it that you need. So you're going to want to look for a garden soil, but the best place I would say to go instead of doing it by bag would actually be to your local landscape company. You can call them up and they will have recommendations on what type of soil that they have that would be the best for your garden. They would know all about that. So you're looking for things that have compost added into it as a definite bonus. If you don't have compost in the soil, you're looking for to add compost into it, because essentially it will all break down and like mix into it, and that's what creates that deep, rich, dark soil that you're looking for. So things like sheep manure you could use, chicken manure as long as it's been aged properly, mushroom compost. You can compost in your own garden. I have a video that I can link down below on starting a little compost garden in your backyard in a tote for like $10. It's super easy, super cheap, using scraps, of course, from your house or from your garden or wherever. But anyways, mixing compost in with that garden soil is the most beneficial thing that you can do. So again, those are the 3 different types of soil that you can use, or mixes that you can use for growing in your garden. A lot of people don't, just a side note, because that's raised bed gardening. If you were doing in-ground gardening, and not a lot of people really do this anymore, a lot of, in part of some of our soil, depending on where you live, can be such, or our dirt, I should say, is going to be such low quality that it really is going to take a lot for you to get the amendments that you need to bring that dirt up into a soil up to par in order to really grow and have your plants thrive. I'm not saying it can't be done, but typically what happens is people till the ground and then they'll add something like that garden soil into it, compost into it with the dirt, and kind of make like their own in-ground nutrient dense spot. So you're usually not just going to till up the ground and grow straight in the dirt. Weeds thrive in that, but a lot of the times vegetables and fruits don't, because that dirt gets so compact when it gets wet that essentially you're going to choke out your plants. So if there's any questions, like I said, that's just very basic information. You can go far into it, like clay and loam. And like I said, there's so many different aspects of what's actually in that soil that you're buying in these bags. That's a totally different topic. But if you're just looking at going into the store and kind of needed that guidance on what should I pick for how I'm growing, I hope that helps somebody, even with that just a little bit of information. So anyways, like I said, I will link that compost video below. If you have any questions, or if you guys want to chat about what you use down below, feel free. I love talking with you guys in the comments and seeing what other people do and building that community. But we will talk to you soon. Bye.